No contact with the outside world. Crowded cells with bright lights on 24/7. These are the conditions at CECOT, the infamous mega-prison.
In a nation scarred by the terror of gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18, El Salvador has erected a monument to its defiance, the Terrorism Confinement Center, CECOT. This sprawling fortress, housing 40,000 of the country's most notorious criminals, promises safety through unrelenting control. But as the gates slam shut, a question lingers. What is the true price of this iron-fisted victory over crime? Deep in the remote district of Tecoluca, El Salvador, the Terrorism Confinement Center, CECOT, stands as a stark emblem of a nation's resolve to crush gang violence. Unveiled in January 2023, this maximum security prison is the largest in Latin America. Designed to hold up to 40,000 inmates across its 23-hectare expanse. Fortified with 19 watchtowers, double-layered electrified fences, and towering walls crowned with razor wire, CECOT is an impenetrable stronghold. Under President Nayib Bukele's leadership, El Salvador has waged an aggressive campaign to dismantle the gangs that have long plagued its streets, with CECOT as its centerpiece. Yet, this fortress of control has ignited fierce debate. While it has slashed crime rates, its brutal conditions and mass incarcerations raise profound questions about human rights and justice. From the grim realities of life inside to the international controversies it has sparked, CECOT embodies both El Salvador's desperate bid for security and the moral dilemmas of its uncompromising approach. A fortress built for the ruthless. The Terrorism Confinement Center, CECOT, is a colossus of incarceration, purpose-built to house El Salvador's most dangerous criminals. Spanning 23 hectares, it dwarfs other prisons in Latin America, with a capacity for 40,000 inmates. Its fortifications are formidable. 19 watchtowers loom over double-layered electrified fences and high walls topped with razor wire, ensuring escape is a near impossibility. Opened in January 2023, CECOT reflects President Nayib Bukele's uncompromising stance on gang violence. Its remote Tecoluca location isolates it from urban centers, while advanced surveillance systems and heavily armed guards maintain iron control. The prison's design sends a clear message. Those who terrorize society will face unrelenting confinement. Beyond its physical barriers, CECOT is a symbol of El Salvador's determination to break the stranglehold of gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18. Yet, its sheer scale and austere conditions have drawn global scrutiny, with critics arguing that it sacrifices humanity for security. CECOT is a bold experiment in crime control, embodying both the hope of a safer nation and the ethical costs of extreme measures. The Genesis, a nation's war on gangs. CECOT's creation stems from El Salvador's decades-long battle against gang violence, which has claimed countless lives and paralyzed communities. In March 2022, a surge in homicides linked to gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 prompted President Bukele to declare a state of emergency, suspending constitutional rights to enable mass arrests. Over 85,000 suspected gang members have since been detained, targeting groups notorious for extortion, murder, and terror. Bukele's crackdown aimed to dismantle the gang's grip, restoring safety to a nation weary of fear. CECOT was built as the cornerstone of this strategy, providing a secure facility to house thousands of inmates. The government credits the prison and related policies with a dramatic drop in crime, transforming once dangerous neighborhoods. However, the sweeping arrests and erosion of due process have sparked criticism from human rights groups who warn of authoritarian overreach. For many Salvadorans, the trade-off is worthwhile, but the international community questions the sustainability of such draconian measures in the fight against gang dominance, highlighting the tension between security and civil liberties. Life inside, harsh realities. Life within CECOT is a study in deprivation and control. The prison's 8 modules each contain 32 cells, with up to 156 inmates packed into spaces offering just 0.6 square meters per person. Inmates sleep on bare metal bunks without mattresses, share 2 toilets and wash basins per cell, and endure constant artificial lighting, with no access to natural light or outdoor spaces. Surveillance cameras monitor every corner, ensuring total compliance. Amenities are virtually non-existent. Meals consist of rice, beans, and tortillas, eaten without utensils, and there are no recreational or rehabilitation programs. This harsh environment is deliberate, designed to break the will of even the most hardened criminals and prevent gang hierarchies from forming. Prison officials argue that such conditions are necessary to maintain order in a facility housing dangerous inmates. However, human rights organizations condemn CECOT as inhumane, arguing it violates basic standards of dignity. For inmates, the prison is a grueling test of endurance, where personal agency is erased, and survival hinges on navigating the relentless constraints of this unforgiving fortress. A glimpse into the inmates' lives. CECOT houses some of El Salvador's most infamous gang leaders, whose stories reveal the complex roots of their crimes. One inmate, known as Psycho, offered a rare glimpse into this world during an interview. Recruited into a gang at age 11, he spent over 3 decades committing murders, extortion, and other atrocities. Now confined in CECOT, he described its oppressive conditions, but also expressed remorse, urging youth to avoid his path. His story mirrors that of many inmates, young men drawn into gang life by poverty, violence, and lack of opportunity. CECOT holds thousands like him, from low-level members to bosses of MS-13 and Barrio 18. For these inmates, the prison is both punishment and a reflection of their choices. While some express a desire for redemption, the absence of rehabilitation programs offers little hope for change. The government views these men as irredeemable threats, prioritizing containment over reform. Yet, their stories humanize the gang member label, exposing systemic failures that fuel crime, even as CECOT seeks to lock those cycles away. Solitary confinement, the ultimate punishment. For inmates who break CECOT's rules, solitary confinement is the ultimate sanction. These windowless cells, shrouded in darkness, have only a small hole for minimal air and sunlight, isolating prisoners from all human contact. The conditions are designed to break even the toughest criminals, with officials claiming they enforce discipline in a prison filled with dangerous gang members. Inmates in solitary face sensory deprivation and intense psychological strain, risking severe mental health damage. The cells embody CECOT's philosophy of maximum control, where defiance is met with extreme measures. Human rights groups have denounced these cells as torture, arguing they violate international standards for prisoner treatment. For inmates, solitary is a descent into despair, where time blurs and the mind becomes a battleground. While authorities see it as essential for order, critics warn that such measures dehumanize inmates, potentially fueling resentment rather than reform. In CECOT, solitary confinement is the starkest expression of the prison's ruthless approach to discipline, amplifying its reputation as a place of unyielding punishment, daily routine, monotony, and surveillance. Inmates at CECOT endure a monotonous, tightly controlled routine that leaves little room for hope or change. Confined to their cells for nearly 24 hours a day, they have no access to education, work, or outdoor recreation. Their only respite is a supervised 1-hour weekly physical activity session. Meals, sparse servings of rice, beans, and tortillas, are consumed without utensils, reinforcing the prison's austerity. Constant surveillance by cameras and guards ensures every moment is monitored. Family visits are prohibited, severing ties to the outside world, and personal belongings are minimal. The unrelenting artificial lighting disrupts sleep and mental well-being, creating a sense of disorientation. This routine is designed to prevent gang organization and maintain order, but it traps inmates in psychological stagnation. Human rights advocates argue that the lack of rehabilitation undermines any chance of reform, perpetuating a cycle of punishment. For inmates, days blend into weeks, marked only by the grind of survival in a system that prioritizes containment over transformation, leaving them suspended in a limbo of surveillance and monotony. International controversy, deportations, and human rights concerns. CECOT has drawn international condemnation for detaining not only Salvadoran gang members, but also deportees from the United States, particularly under former President Donald Trump's administration. Hundreds of Venezuelan migrants accused of gang affiliations with scant evidence were sent to El Salvador and incarcerated in CECOT. Human rights organizations have criticized these deportations, citing a lack of due process and the prison's inhumane conditions. The facility's role in housing foreign nationals has intensified concerns about its compliance with international law. Critics argue that CECOT's overcrowded cells, minimal amenities, and lack of rehabilitation violate human rights standards. The Salvadoran government defends the prison as a necessary tool against gang violence, but global observers question the ethics of mass incarceration and deportations without fair trials. For deportees, CECOT is a bewildering nightmare where they face the same brutal conditions as local inmates, often without understanding the system. This controversy highlights the clash between El Salvador's security priorities and international expectations of justice and humanity, placing CECOT at the center of a global debate. The debate: security versus human rights. President Bukele's policies, including CECOT, have transformed El Salvador, slashing crime rates and earning him widespread domestic support. Homicides have plummeted, and communities once dominated by gangs now feel safer. However, these gains come at a steep cost. The state of emergency, mass arrests, and CECOT's harsh conditions have fueled a heated debate over human rights. International bodies, including the United Nations, criticize the lack of due process, with thousands detained on vague charges. CECOT's overcrowded cells and absence of rehabilitation are seen as violations of prisoner rights. Yet, many Salvadorans, exhausted by decades of violence, prioritize security over civil liberties, viewing Bukele's measures as a necessary evil. This divide raises a fundamental question: can safety justify authoritarian tactics? Supporters argue that extreme measures were essential to dismantle the gang's hold, while critics warn that eroded rights and dehumanizing prisons could sow future unrest. CECOT embodies this tension, standing as both a symbol of restored order and a cautionary tale of the sacrifices made in its pursuit. Conclusion: a complex legacy. CECOT is a polarizing symbol of El Salvador's war on gangs, its massive scale and unforgiving design delivering undeniable results in reducing crime. Under Bukele's leadership, the prison has become a cornerstone of a strategy that prioritizes containment over reform, restoring safety to a nation long besieged by violence. Yet, its legacy is deeply complex. The brutal conditions, mass incarcerations, and controversial deportations have drawn global condemnation, raising critical questions about justice and human rights. While Salvadorans celebrate safer streets, the cost, eroded civil liberties, and a prison system that dehumanizes casts a long shadow. CECOT's success in curbing gang violence is clear, but its methods challenge ethical boundaries, offering no path for inmate redemption. As El Salvador navigates this experiment, the world watches, weighing the lessons of a nation that traded compassion for control. CECOT's story is one of triumph and tragedy, a powerful reminder that the pursuit of security can exact a heavy toll, shaping a legacy that will define the nation's future for generations to come.